Okay, I think it's all set to record and it's 3 o'clock. So I'll go ahead and get started. So hi everyone, thank you all so much for coming today. This is YouthServe NYC's 15th speaker. And just to remind everyone, YouthServe NYC is a service initiative founded and run by young people who want to become more involved in the work of rebuilding New York City in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis. YouthServe NYC is a way to engage peers in service and in social justice. Today, we are so happy and fortunate to welcome Stephen Portericker, who is the Associate Deputy Executive Director for Youth and Aging at Goddard Riverside. With roots dating back to the settlement house movement of the 1800s, Goddard Riverside invests in people and strengthens communities. Through a variety of programs, Goddard Riverside serves more than 20,000 people a year on the Upper West Side and throughout New York City. So thank you again so much for joining us today. We're so excited to hear about your work at Goddard Riverside and anything else that you'd like to share. And just to remind everyone, later when I do questions or when we do questions, if you have any, you can just type them in the Q&A function or chat them to me and I will read them aloud. So thank you again and over to you.
So yeah, thank you for the warm welcome and for the intro to Goddard Riverside. My name is Stephen Portericker. I am the Associate Deputy Executive Director at Goddard Riverside. Long title, I get it. But what that title is that I support programs within the youth and aging program. So my goal is to really be a thought partner when it comes to the work and ensure that we're running high quality programs and really just kind of be a support to ensure that we're running great programs that whether it's young people or older adults, they're having a good time and they're really leveraging the resources that we offer, as well as ensuring that we involve the community as needed, really raising some of the challenges or issues that are bubbling up for our constituents to ensure that their voices are heard and to ensure that everyone continues to grow and that we continue to invest in them so therefore they can live successful lives. When it comes to the youth and aging programs, so there are quite a few programs that we have as an organization. I'm really going to focus my attention on youth and aging since that's where my work is. And so when it comes to the youth work at Goddard Riverside, we have five major programs. One includes after school programs for children ages 5 to 12. And that includes after school programs and summer camp, and it's really an academic enrichment type, not academic, it's an enrichment type program. So it's really to not look like school, to really allow kids to, young people to learn and to develop skills and just have a good time with their peers and with, caring adults. And then those programs in the school year turn into really thriving summer camps where we do a lot of the same activities we would do in the school year, but it's an extension of the after school. So now we're able to go on trips and really do a lot of other intense activities to ensure that not only we're exposing young people to new activities and opportunities, but they really get a chance to explore New York City, right? New York City is a thriving city. And even though the pandemic has created some challenges for young people, it's still a great space to kind of learn and really, and you can do so many things free. And we love free here at Goddard. We also do a lot of work around college access and success, right? So not only is it important to support high school students around getting to college, but we also want to make sure that they can also get through college. And so we offer counselors to work with young people to help them get prepared for college, as well as choose the right college based on fit. So whether it's financially, whether it's geographically, but just to ensure that they have the right fit for their college choices. And then more importantly, ensuring that they are successful once they get into college. And so we provide counselors to work with them throughout college to ensure that financially they're making the right decisions, academically they're supported, and then that they're really encouraged to leverage other resources on those campuses. We also do a pretty large Beacon program. Beacon programs are partners. It's a program that partners with CBOs and schools to offer like a community center within the school. And so the school opens up their doors later in the evenings. So we have programs for children ages 5 to 12, also for middle schoolers, high schoolers, young adults, older adults, to really ensure that they have thriving activities to keep them engaged in the school building. And it also has Saturday activities. So activities include yoga. We do, monthly cultural exchange events. We have dance programs. We have STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math activities. We really just kind of meet the needs of the young people and their interests. Of course, basketball and other sports, but really just kind of ensuring that young people and older people really enjoy the space in a very safe and caring way. We also have a learning to work program, which works with high school students who are looking to really develop their skills when it comes to the workforce. And so learning to work is a partnership with schools that's considered a transfer school, which means that students who had challenges in the previous high school are now part of this high school. And so we work very closely with Edward Reynolds West Side High School, which is here in Upper West Side, to really help high school students become much more excited and successful in high school, at the same time offering subsidized internships so they get paid for internships to kind of really learn and kind of have an idea of what they want to do professionally, right? Some young people think that they'll be good teachers, and then they realize, you know what, I really don't enjoy working with kids, right? And so it's a great way to kind of really expose them to those opportunities. We also do a lot of work at the early childcare level, and so we have two centers for children ages 2 to 4, and that's our early childcare centers. And that really is about ensuring that children have the resources and the opportunities to engage and be social amongst each other and learning. So therefore, when they get to kindergarten, they can really be successful at the grade levels. So that's kind of some breadth of what we do for children and young adults. When it comes to our older adult programs, what we call older adult centers, we have two types of programs. One is our senior centers. So we have two senior centers that work with older adults ages 60 and over. And the main thing is we want to ensure that young people are aging well. And so, you age and you think you can stay home, but we want to make sure that you're not only aging well, but you're coming to the centers, you're having healthy meals that are of interest for you as an older person. You also are engaging with other seniors, in the space. We're playing chess. You're playing bingo. You're really just kind of really have a very an opportunity to really engage with your peers and really age well in place. We also have a program called Nork. A Nork is a naturally occurring retirement center. Long word. But what that is it really works with older adults in buildings, and so we want to make sure that they age well in place. And so we create supports for them. So if they're a homebound senior, we have staff that can go out and help them go with shopping. We also do a lot of health screenings and supports to ensure that they're aging well in place. Um, that's kind of the breadth of the work. I kind of want to talk briefly about how I got here. And so I'm from Harlem, born and raised from a single parent. I struggled in reading as a kid. I, also experienced a lot of trauma when it came to domestic violence in my home, as well as a lot of drug activity in the community in which I lived. And so, the idea of being a director or a leader within, an organization was not something that was on my radar. Thankfully, I had uh, counselors in high school who really worked with me to understand my skills and kind of really develop my skills and interests. When I started college at SUNY Morrisville and then Stony Brook University, my goal was to do physical therapy. Unfortunately, I took a class called organic chemistry, which really shifted my thinking in regards to what I really want to do. And that led into working with children. And so I've always really enjoyed that even at the high school level. And then I started at Harlem Children's Zone, which is another organization, to work with families who were at risk of foster care placement. Unfortunately, that work was a little too tough for my heart. And then after that, I applied to another organization to work with high schoolers who were at risk of not graduating. And from there, I did a lot of home visits working with families to ensure that not only are they going back to school, but then passing classes so therefore they can graduate. Really enjoyed that, but knew that I could do more. And so I stepped into a leadership role as a director for after school programs. And that's where I got a chance to really kind of flex my leadership abilities, right, can really support staff around how to better plan for youth programs and ensure that they're having a good time, but also learning and really beginning to thrive. And I spent 10 years at this organization at Unity Settlement, which is an agency in East Harlem. And I did that for 10 years as the director of youth services, and then eventually moved into Goddard. And so I've been here for 5 years. I thoroughly enjoy what I do. I'm also what I would like to say an authentic leader. And what I mean by that is sometimes you have to really share your experiences to the people around you, so therefore they can connect to one who you are, but also be empowered by that. And what I mean by that is there was an opportunity or a moment a few years ago where a board member gave me a call to invite me to a holiday party in which the board member was hosting. And on the call, the board member goes, you know what, you can invite your beautiful wife. And you guys don't know yet, but I am a part of the LGBT community. And so the board member assumed that I had a wife as a partner. And so I could have kind of went with the flow and not said anything and kind of let it be. But my response to the board member was, well, his name is Christopher, and if you want me to invite him, I would. I will. And she apologized, and from there we kind of moved forward. But it really allowed me to one take ownership of my own identity and expression, and also model for the young people and my staff who may have also been part of the LGBTQ community. So that's a lot, but I love working with young people. I really believe in collaboration, and really ensuring that we create opportunities for young people to grow and learn, and that they have the right supports in order to thrive.
Well, thank you so much. That was terrific, and hearing about your work at God Riverside and your own story, that was both great. Thank you. So I'll start with some of my own questions, and then if people have others, they can again put them in the Q&A function or chat them to me. So you've talked about your work and how you got to Goddard Riverside, but one thing I was just wondering is if you've seen your work change over the years, and then kind of adding on to that, what you look to in the future and how you hope to see your work change in the future years.
Yeah, great question. I think the work in many ways has been the same for the most part. I think the one major changing thing has been the technology influence, right? So technology has become the game changer, right? When it comes to how you conduct business, but also how you educate young people and others around whatever it is you're trying to teach. And so the lift has been one, ensuring that there's equity amongst everyone to ensure that they have the adequate technology. And the example I would use is that, so here at Goddard, um, when the DOE, during the pandemic, right, the DOE said, you know what, we're going to give all young people access to tablets and technology to ensure that they can do their work remotely. Unfortunately, everyone wasn't fully assessed in regards to what their capacity is, right? So yes, you may have given a laptop to a family, but if the family has 3 kids, now you have 3 of the kids sharing that same laptop. Or maybe the family didn't have really good Wi-Fi network in order to really be able to log into those instructional sessions. And so God and Riverside spent a lot of time and money to ensure that those who weren't fully planned for had the resources, the tools, and support to ensure that they can log in daily. And so we paid for extra laptops to ensure that all members of the family had laptops. And then if they had issues with bandwidth, we also provided those resources as well to those families. So technology has been definitely something that's been unique compared to my earlier work, and it will continue to be a game changer.
Great, thank you. And I see the ones, I'll get to those in a little bit. So I know that on your website, you list other categories of programs, including promoting behavioral health and wellness, fighting homelessness, and supporting housing for all, and strengthening families and communities. And you've obviously talked a lot about your youth and senior work, but could you just talk a little bit about those other programs and how or if you work with them?
Yeah, so I don't supervise those programs, but clearly because they're part of the organization, I do partner with them at times on services. And so when it comes to to promoting behavioral health and wellness, that's really about creating opportunities to ensure that those who are disadvantaged, those who may have mental health challenges, have opportunities to either learn, whether it's through the workforce, whether it's through social engagement, whether it's through housing, right? So regardless of what your disabilities are or what your challenges are, God wants to ensure that you have the support networks to ensure that you can engage and be a contributing member of the community. When it comes to the fighting homelessness, so there's two pieces to that. So one, we have supportive housing, right? So those people who are in the streets who are homeless or looking for shelter. We have housing units that will bring in either individuals or small families into housing, right? And so we have counselors then who go out and the counselors. We have so there's the housing units, and then we have a street outreach team. So we have teams that go out into the neighborhoods to identify those people who are homeless and then to begin to refer them or give them a warm handoff into those housing units. When it comes to strengthening families and communities, there are three parts of that. One is our community arts program, and what that is it's a pretty thriving program that offers performances, arts to those who normally wouldn't have access to the arts during the summer. And then it's also a community space. So we'll bring in performers and companies to to really do a lot of showcasing of their plays and or musical, concerts, etc. Resource Center is a center where those who are looking for any kind of support, whether it's food, housing, public assistance, you can come to that center and there will be someone there to kind of begin to offer those resources or to connect you to those resources. And then the last one is the advocacy and community organizing. And that's really being at the forefront when it comes to issues as they bubble up, right? So clearly, Black Lives Matters has been a huge issue in the last, well, for a long time, but definitely over the last 2 years, it definitely spiked, right? And so we've been able to kind of organize amongst our staff, our programs, and the community to ensure that we're creating spaces for conversations, but also raising any issues that may bubble up for whether it's participants or the community or even staff and programs.
Great, thank you. So I know that you're primarily or you're based on the Upper West Side. Is that where you really focus on, or do you broaden your reach to other New York City communities?
Yes, great question. So Goddard, I always say that there's a village of centers in the Upper West Side, but we do have programs in Harlem. We do have a program that we just opened in Queens. We have a handful of programs in the Lower Manhattan area. So we are a city organization for New York City. But I would say that a lot of our programs are in the Upper West Side neighborhood, but we're definitely across the map when it comes to the city.
Okay, I'm going to combine one of my own and one that was in the Q&A. So has COVID changed your work? Obviously, everyone's been affected by COVID, but specifically, has it changed who you serve or how you serve them?
It's a great question too. I think it really just exposed another level of people, another level of families who need help, right? So I think that we're pretty diverse in our offerings. We engage those who are homeless. We engage those who are doing well academically. I mean, it's a very diverse pool of children and families that we serve. But I think at the height of the pandemic, there were so many families who needed money, who needed funds to pay their bills because they lost jobs, right? Or they needed food. They needed ways to put food on the table because parents were losing jobs and they didn't have the resources to bring in food. There were a lot of challenges with just ensuring that they have enough PPE, right? So everyone needs to wear masks. Not all families have masks. There was a time where masks became so expensive, right? And so for families who were low income or really just struggling, they didn't have those resources in place. And so I think it only heightened the number of people who needed supports in order to ensure that they can stay safe in their homes and in their communities.
Thank you. Okay, and then adding on to that, are there any specific changes or adjustments that you've made because of COVID that you're planning on keeping on as we look to the future?
You know, the pandemic has been a gift and and a curse. The gift has been, well, I'll start with the curse. The curse has been that, we spend a lot of time virtually, right? And so Goddard did a really good job at shutting down, and within a week, we had virtual platforms for young people and our older adults and our other stakeholders to engage, stay active and kind of really receive information and resources. So that was very helpful. But the challenge was the technology wasn't um, as user friendly as we hoped it would be, right? So there was a learning curve about how to, do it um, well, right? How to really use Zoom well to ensure that we're doing it a good job for our staff as well as our participants. But the gift is that because we had to do that, now we don't. There's certain parts of our program where maybe we don't have to meet in person, right? Maybe there's some things we can do virtually, and it can be as productive as it was in person. We've been looking at how we can tailor our staffing in regards to who shows up to the office spaces. Maybe we don't need 100% of staff to be working in the centers. Maybe there are some positions that can work virtually or do kind of like a hybrid of that. And clearly there are some activities like parent engagement went up. So in our early childcare programs, there were so many more parents attending our parent meetings because it was virtual. So they could be home in their spaces, cooking or doing whatever they had to do, but could still log into a meeting. And so I think there were definitely some great benefits as well as some challenges with the pandemic.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. So where does your funding come from? On your website, you mentioned multiple financial partners. Who are they and how do you work with them?
Yeah, so when it comes to funders, we are pretty diverse. We have a lot of government funding, whether it's the city or state. So whether it's Department of Education, which is city, the Department of Youth and Community Development, that's city. But then you have some state funds, so like the OCFS, which is the Office. Oh God, I'm sorry, I can't pull that one out of my head, but it's called OCFS. And so city, state, and federal funding. And then we also have a lot of private funds, right? So we have money that comes from foundations. So like the Robert Bell Foundation is a great example of that. The Robert Bell Foundation, I mean, sorry, Robin Hood Foundation. I think I said Robert Bell. Robin Hood Foundation is a pretty well-known foundation that really um, works to meet the needs of those most at risk, right? So families who are in poverty, communities who are underdeveloped or within poverty, they want to fund programs that are really looking to target those neighborhoods. And so they're a great funder. And so yeah, we have a lot of private funds. And then there's also like individual support, right? So you have individuals who either were part of the organization or they volunteered some way and they kind of want to give money because they really like the work that we do as an organization and they want to help out in that way.
Okay, someone asked, how many schools are you working with? Do you have an idea of the number of students at the primary, middle school, and high school level that you work with?
Oh, good question. So I would say schools, it may be upwards of 20. And that's, we have a couple of schools that we partner with and we run programs out of those locations. But then, like for our elementary program, we do pickup, right? So we pick up kids from local schools to bring them back to our after school centers. And so we will, so that's also a clear partnership. And then there's some schools that we kind of use their space to run programs with, whether it's for our older adults or for our young people. And so I would say upwards of 20. In regards to the numbers, that's an even tougher question to pull. But I would say with elementary, we're about 2,000. No, I'm sorry. In regards to the youth in general, I would say about 2,000. And so youth would be our early childcare from ages 2 to 4, our elementary, middle school, and high school. So I would say 2,000.
Thank you. That's really impressive. Okay. Do you ever work with organizations like Goddard Riverside outside of New York City or that are based in other parts of the country?
Yeah, so unfortunately, when you get contracts with the city, the state, or the federal government, oftentimes it's not enough money to really do the high quality work that you want to do and that you need to do. And so partnerships are important, right? And so we constantly look for partners who do either similar work or they have a unique type of service that can really complement what we do, right? So if so, as an example, there's an organization called Visiting Nurses of New York. And what they do is they provide nurses to work within our senior centers to do some of the health screenings because funding wise, we don't have the financial support. We don't get paid enough to hire a nurse. And so VNS, Visiting Nurses of New York, they then provide a nurse to come in to do those health screenings, which are important. And then also, Goddard Riverside is a settlement house. And I'm not sure if you heard about the settlement house movement, but it was a really very important movement when it came to human services. And so settlement houses have been around since the 1800s, and they've been around and they're still around, and it's global. So you will find settlement houses like Goddard Riverside in Berlin, in Canada, and a lot of different other countries around the world. And we also partner with them as well to learn best practice when it comes to the work that we do and to kind of leverage opportunities when appropriate.
Great. Okay, I think we have time for a few more. Do you ever engage in policy work at the city, state, or federal level on behalf of the communities that you work with and serve?
Every day. Every day there's a learning opportunity. So yes, unfortunately a lot of times communities need a space to one share what their challenges are, what their concerns are, whether it's with the police or whether it's with garbage or whether it's with the roads, whether it's with housing, right? We engage a lot of families who live in NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, and so there are always issues and challenges. And because we have contracts and because we have access to a lot of the politicians, elected officials, and funders, we're constantly kind of hearing what the community is saying, hearing what the neighborhoods are saying, and then kind of raising those issues to the forefront. So yes.
Okay, I'll do two more. Someone would like to know more about your conception of authentic leadership and how you inspire others to become leaders themselves.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Someone would like to know if you could tell us more about your conception of authentic leadership and how you inspire others to become leaders themselves.
Yeah. So one, it's a great question. So I lead. I actually do a training for staff and for others who are looking to kind of really become more engaged in leadership, which touches the idea of authentic leadership. And so I think it's important because I think the more people understand that you have the same, you have some of the same experiences, or there are areas where you can learn from each other, it allows for further understanding, it allows for further collaboration, and just empathy at times, right? And so I think it's important. And you never know who's watching, right? And so when I think about it, when I was a director for an after school program, I had a young person who she said yeah, so what's your wife's name? And she was a middle schooler, and so I said, well, why do you think she's a wife? So I didn't say no. I didn't deny it, right? But I challenged her in that moment. I think when people can understand that, I didn't come from a space where I had a silver spoon in my mouth. Like I really had to work. There were times when I didn't think I was smart enough. There were times when I didn't think I had the skill sets. It allows those who may have similar experiences to go, I can be that person too, or I can be a leader, or I can do whatever I want to do as long as I apply myself to that. And I think when you're authentic in your leadership, then it allows it allows others to also be authentic about themselves. And I think the more honest we are with who we are, then it creates a much more rich environment.
Well, usually I ask a final question about what your advice would be to young people like us who want to get more involved in public service work. But I think you basically just answered that. If you'd like to add anything else or any other advice, please do. But I know we're just about out of time. So either you can add a little bit more or we can wrap up.
Yeah, sure. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'm really appreciative of this moment. Um, Two, I think as you begin to continue to develop and learn about who you are, I think it's important to self-reflect as you go throughout each of your stages of life, trying to really understand, okay, if I don't enjoy this internship or this class or whatever I'm learning in this moment, why is that? Right? I think the whys are important. And the more you can ask why to a question, you then get to the root of what the, the real truth is, right? And so I really applaud that. And I think it's important to be a life learner, right? You can never know everything and you can never be perfect at anything. So the more you learn, the more you challenge yourself, the more you self-reflect, to kind of really answer those questions, things begin to open up and and you begin to have a better understanding of who you are and what you want.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you as well to everyone else who came. I did record this, so I will post the recording on the website soon. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you and have a great weekend.
You too.